Hello, everyone. So I'm going to do a presentation on a garbage patch which has arisen in the Mediterranean Ocean. So my name is Daniel Walker. I'm a senior engineering student. I'm concentrating my degree in environmental engineering and project management. My main interests in this field are to work on large scale environmental cleanup efforts, which often require large amounts of organization and expertise, which is why I chose to go the engineering route to be able to have the background to be able to solve some of these problems. And so that's why I chose this article to present on, because this is an area of interest of mine. The purpose of this article is to summarize a report that an author did on a Mediterranean garbage patch, which is bothering a couple islands in the Mediterranean. And so the purpose here is to educate the public on a lot of these environmental threats, which are emerging frequently around the globe, so that we are more educated to deal with these kind of issues. So I'm going to go over the summary of the Mediterranean situation in the article and some of the causes of garbage patches, and then we'll go over some takeaways from the article. So the current problem in the Mediterranean is that this garbage is accumulating near the islands of Elba and Corsica. And so because of the way that the ocean currents there operate, the garbage is moved north along the western Italian coastline, and it kind of runs up the Italian coast until it hits Elba, which is near the coast, and it gets basically bottlenecked there because there's not as much water for it to move through. So it kind of collects together in a bottleneck, and it runs into southern Elba, and it kind of goes around the side of that and goes up the Corsica Canal on the other island. And so what happens here is this trash gets all over their coastlines, and if it's windy, it blows all over their islands. And so there's a lot of garbage in this region, which they didn't necessarily create. It came from other places, but they're being plagued by it. And so this is happening all over the place now. And so obviously it causes issues for the local communities. It damages the quality of their seafood. We'll get into that in a minute. And also it damages the quality of tourism potential, because who wants to sail in an area or go vacation in an area that's covered with garbage? And the way that it affects the seafood is, a lot of this garbage is plastic, and plastic breaks into microplastics. And when it gets to this really small size, it can be consumed by any of the creatures in the ocean. And it's been documented that the plastic moves up the food chain and can end up in the seafood which humans consume, and it can be toxic. So patches are created by ocean currents because a lot of the currents in the ocean they gyrate in a spiral kind of a shape. And so as the ocean collects garbage from the coastlines, and then the garbage that we dump in the ocean, it moves and accumulates in these currents, often in the center. And so the Pacific garbage patch is the most common example of that, because it's in the center of a huge ocean jarrow, and it has left like a permanent garbage patch there, because it's like it's constantly being collected and kept in that area of the ocean. So for us to deal with these garbage patches requires human intervention. The patches are created by humans. They need to be solved by humans. The difficulty with doing this is that by nature, oceanic garbage patches are an international issue, because they're not on anyone's sovereign land, and so it requires cooperation of nations to deal with them. And these are large-scale, expensive problems to deal with, which is why we haven't really come up with a good solution yet. And there aren't really any recycling efforts due to the high cost of separating the different varying materials and being able to recycle them. So the point of this presentation was to increase public awareness of one of the many environmental issues faced by the Earth, which is oceanic garbage patches. I want everyone to understand the problems that these cause. The Mediterranean islands of Corsica and Elba are only one example of communities being affected by human activity in a negative way. But this is happening all over the place as well. And the more aware people are, the more able we will be to be able to come up with ideas to solve these problems and work together and cooperate. And because there are no large-scale efforts right now, this is a pressing issue, because it's only going to continue to get worse until we come up with solutions for it. And the more people are aware of these type of problems, the more able we will be to solve them. And so it's good to, talk about these things and be educated. Thank you for listening to the presentation.